Hello and welcome to Season 1, Episode 34 of Jack and Being Frank. Now, this is sadly our final episode of the season. I'm your host, Jack Milano, joined as always by my co-host, Frank Aranio. Today, we'll be recapping the NBA draft night, which I thought was going to be wild, but it wasn't really that wild. But we're going to still break down the trades that went down before the NBA draft and predicting the ones that still will come looming. With the weak free agency class looming. Boston retooling, that's a big thing because they are connected with the Knicks. And in the Eastern Conference, we'll really dive into them and see, are they still going to get 10 next year, or what's their really long-term plans? We'll also check into the NFL offseason. We'll check into that a little bit. We'll give our thoughts on the Red Sox and the Mets as the MLB season heats up and dive into the trades that the team should make or could make as they're trying to get back on track. So let's get into it. My first thing is Cooper Flag to Dallas Mavericks. What is how big of a prospect is he? And what do you think the Mavericks, do you think this is a franchise-altering pick for them?
I mean, it's tough to predict. I mean,
Yeah.
I always think with drafts and, what's Cooper Flag? He's 19 years old. I mean, he's clearly phenomenal. He clearly has that ability to be an elite player in the NBA. But I was like, when those questions come up and then when you get the people like it's certain and this guy's going to change a franchise, like it looks like he can, but I don't really think it's something you could. Certainly, you can't predict it, but I don't think it's something that you could really go in depth with. And it's like it's just okay. Yeah, you go in depth with the player and evaluating his performance, what you see
and also
on the court. What we saw in college with his year at Duke, but it's like I don't know. Like I don't know really where to go with that because I just think it's so tough to forecast that and make those sort of predictions.
Well, it's a weird number one pick scenario because the Dallas Mavericks flung up boards, even though they traded Luka, they had all those injuries. They flung up boards. They really did. They weren't projecting number one pick, and this team is projected to win now. So it's a really weird situation. It could be a good situation for Cooper to go into as a team that is still going to try to win. I mean, once Kyrie gets back in January, February, that's where he's targeting. And he's still got AD, and then they're going to build a decent team around that. They have guys, so they can still compete. And their back line, their defense, Daniel Gafford, they just extended. They have young centers and very good centers. And they have Kyrie coming back. So this is going to be a team. A weird situation for Cooper Flag's first year. I know, I was trying to, say, all these players that, were number one picks, even if you think back to LeBron, those teams weren't good at all. Like we want to talk about generational, these hype players, when they came in, those teams were absolutely garbage.
Yeah, well, that's usually the case. I mean, this is a pretty rare case.
It's pretty rare case where a team you see jump up. And I mean, this is the culture that they want to Dallas, and they want a team that can defend the heck out of the ball. And they get another guy in Cooper Flag. Not like this was a hard decision, like they were choosing between one or two players, but this guy fits their system. Fits their system, but this guy's a defensive player, and when they lose Luka and they get Anthony Davis, you're kind of building that what you want, what Nico Harrison wants, what Jason Kidd wants, or we'll see if he's the coach next year. What they want, which is defense. I mean, Jason Kidd's always been a defensive coach, and then you have Nico Harrison making that deal to go out and get Anthony Davis, so he fits into a system, which is weird to say about a first pick because a first pick usually creates the system.
Yeah, it is a very different situation. And, the Mavs got this first pick. I mean, people speculate on how exactly that happened, but the reality is they did get the first pick. And, they're not a bottom of the barrel team like the team that gets the first pick normally is. I know it's a lottery, so you're not guaranteed to be a team with the worst record, but it's normally a team, that's a really bad team that is in a major rebuild, and like you said, the system is built around that player. So I think it's good for Flag. Like he goes into a team that
he was a winner. His big quality, I think it's I know it's cliche, but he's a winner. So I feel like him going.
He has a good mindset. Like he's mature.
Like competitor.
He gets it. He looks like a guy that's going to be a top-notch professional.
So it's like sticking him on the Utah Jazz and be like, okay, that's good for maybe he can develop, spread his wings, but he's a winner. He's a winner at heart. Maybe at the end of the day, maybe the Utah Jazz, him, for example, go on and win some championships, but he gets the win right away. And that's
Yeah, I think it's good for him. I mean, he can be careful. Like you don't want to put too much pressure on him. There's obviously going to be pressure and there's a lot of expectations, but I think we have to be realistic about what he can do as a 19-year-old. I mean, it's going to take some time for him to adjust to the league and really establish himself. But he comes into a situation where the Mavericks can win now, or at least they can be competitive now, or I would say a playoff contender now. So again, I've said this a couple of times, but I think that's good for him. It's actually especially with the pressure, like I guess is there more pressure on him? I'll ask you the question. We could talk about this. Is there more pressure on him coming into a situation where he's on a team that could be competitive, or is there more pressure when you go in and you're on a terrible team and he's the guy right away? Like where is there more pressure?
Well, I think the biggest thing about pressure is, will you be allowed to make mistakes? And I don't know if that Dallas will allow them to make mistakes. Maybe for the first half of the year, before Kyrie comes back, when you get that rolling and you get those Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, But I don't think that he's a mistake maker, which is that's why you pick him at number one. That's why that's why he's a winner, because he doesn't make mistakes like rookies would. I don't know of that, but like he looks like a guy that's 6'10" and doesn't really make a lot of mistakes, and his game is pure. So I don't feel like he's but that's a lot to put on a rookie, though. But I don't feel like he's a mistake-prone player like some guards you would select, and you would really need them to be on bad teams because their guards make a lot of turnovers in the rookie year. I mean, it's a surprise, but they do. They make a lot of mistakes, and that's why you usually see most guards young guards be on bad teams, is because they make a lot of turnovers. This guy's a 6'9", 6'10" player that gets to his game real easy. So I think that's a player that a win now player, and I think they got the right one. Well, I mean, he was the right one, the best one on the board. So they got him. So it's not like a guard. That would be different. I think when you select a guard, they usually when I think about a guard, Scoot Henderson, he went to the Portland Trail Blazers. That was a team that really stunk. So he could just do whatever the hell he wants to. They're not whatever he wants to, but he can make mistakes and, developmental and just but Cooper Fly's game could fit in today, and it could fit in the next 10 years. So that's just what it is. And that's why you draft him number one. That's why he is this hyped up prospect. But yeah, I mean, you want to get into Spurs number 2 pick. I mean, they go best player available in Dylan Harper, even though they have guards in Stephon Castle, rookie of the year, De'Aaron Fox. And then now they add Dylan Harper. So that's 3 guards to pair with Victor Wembanyama down low. Not to pair with Victor Wembanyama. Like, where do you see Dylan Harper filling in this team? And also, do you think it's always a good choice to pick best player available and figure it out later? Like, what's your mentality of that? Because I feel like the Spurs are a great franchise, and I can't hate on it, because even whatever you think, at the end of the day, the Spurs are a great franchise. They probably made the right decision.
Yeah.
So,
I know there's the debate between best player available versus the fit for the team. I mean, I guess it depends on where you're at. I think a team like the Spurs, them trying to build this thing up, I would lean towards best player available.
Yeah, I would lean towards best player available, especially if it's like somebody like Dylan Harper, who is, again, I'm going to use the word hyped. He was hyped up, and he's a guy that has some big-time ceiling. So, you know what? I mean, in a few years, or maybe this year, they could look to trade De'Aaron Fox. I know how crazy that sounds, but those other guards are going to be valuable. And if Dylan Harper hits that ceiling, those other 2 guards are now expendable, and you can get assets. So I think I'm a big believer in get the best player available and figure it out later, because especially if a player like Dylan Harper, like if Dylan Harper wasn't really that solidified number 2 when you had VJ Edge come, for example.
Well, he's been predicted to be the number 2 pick in this draft for a couple of years now. I mean, it's been like a couple of years of talk where it's going to be Cooper Flag.
Yeah,
he's this phenom. He's definitely been the number 1 pick in the 2025 draft. He'll go a year of college and then be the number 1 pick. And then Dylan Harper, it's been a couple of years. It's
Yeah.
like, he's gonna be the number 2 pick.
So
it
was a runaway.
It's tough to not pick
Yeah.
him. So I think it makes sense. I think in this case, it makes sense to take the best player available.
So the 76ers passed up on Ace Bailey because he didn't do any workouts. Only did one with the Wizards.
Well, he was supposed to be the 3rd pick because it's been a couple of years now.
Yeah.
The 2 guys at Rutgers are going to be the 2 and 3 pick in the draft. Doesn't wind up being that way. But go ahead, tell us about the Sixers pick. Sixers
select VJ Edgecombe. They're also a team with Cooper Flag, but they aren't it's not Cooper Flag, but they're a team that can still win now if everybody's healthy. I know I keep saying this a year and year and out. But this team's supposed to be win now if they get Tyrese Maxey back. So you don't even need Embiid. Throw that out the window. Tyrese Maxey, Paul George. That team's going to win games with VJ Edgecombe, with Jared McCain back. A very good rookie before he got hurt. Very sad he got hurt. But they get those guys back, they're going to be a pretty good team. So, again.
I don't believe in them doing anything in the playoffs, but they could bounce back and have a good regular season and be a playoff team, particularly in the East, which is opened up. I mean, we'll get into that and what's, the Celtics and their trades.
And then you get VJ
Halliburton injury, which we'll get to later. But, for the Sixers, there's a path now for them to rebound and be a playoff team in the East. I mean, they're not going to go deep in the playoffs or be a champion or anything like that. But, it's another team up there, like you said, with the Mavericks and now the Sixers, where they're not bottom of the barrel teams where they could be competitive in the upcoming season.
So Hornets get Concanepo. I think that's an A+ pick. It's the right pick. They last year they made a dumb pick. They selected T.J. Salon. They selected the safest player and the best player on the board. Well, not best ceiling, but best player. You know what you're gonna get out of Concanepo. Very good shooter. So that's just safe pick. They had to make it. Now they can pair him up with LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller and Concanepo, and you can have that kind of 3-man tandem as your 1, 2, 3. Not like they're going to do anything, but that's just when you're building on a foundation, you want somebody like that in Concanepo who you just know is safe and good. They tried a project last year with Tejan Salon. He stinks. I'm going to put it to you right now. He stinks. So if he gets good, don't hurt me. Don't be the guy that comes after me, but he stinks. So they went out and got the safe pick here in Concanepo. And he's going to be a safe, good player in the league. And I don't think Duke really misses that one.
2 Duke guys in the top 4.
Yeah, so this leads us to number 5, Ace Bailey, going number 5. I really like this
2
pick.
Rutgers guys in the top 5.
I really like this pick, even though Ace Bailey didn't want to go there, but Danny Ainge didn't care. Danny Ainge is a very good general manager.
Yeah, he is.
So he's gonna be a guy that I don't he is the presence to me of he doesn't care. If he knows that Ace Bailey's going to help my franchise, he doesn't care if he wants to be on my team or not. I know it's harsh, but you know what I mean. He doesn't care. If Ace Bailey is on the board, I'm going to take him. I'm not going to let him slide down more. I'm not going to trade out of it. Ace Bailey is a high ceiling. I know he didn't want to go anywhere. He only tried out. Whoa, it's not middle school basketball, but he only worked out for Washington. So they didn't care. And I think you got to think that way if you get somebody like Ace Bailey, who is, again, we talked about projected number 3. Now, I think you have some thoughts about Ace Bailey. Not working out.
Yeah, see, I disagree. I wouldn't have taken him. I mean, a guy like this, look, he can mature, no question about it. Ace Bailey's 19 years old, right? I mean, so he can mature, but I'm staying away from guys that have that entitled mentality where it's, I don't want to play for this team. I don't want to play for that team. I'm only going to work out with these teams. You're going into the NBA draft. You're going to play in the NBA. You're going to make millions and millions of dollars. It's just a very entitled mentality. And I don't want guys like that on my team. I know the talent, but there's plenty of talent out there.
Yeah.
Right. And I get very weary. it's just a major red flag for me. I know what was the guy's name? Another guy, the guy who went to the Raptors. He didn't want to go to the Raptors.
Murray Boyles.
Yeah, so it's I just those guys with that mentality. You know what? No, I'll pass. There's plenty of talent out there, And again, I say it again. They can mature. They can change their mindset. They are young enough to do that. But it's just the point they're at right now. I don't want to deal with that. I mean, you're saying you don't want to be on this team or that team. And like show a little gratitude. Like the team sees something in you. They want you to work out with them or they want to draft you. Like your mentality should be gratitude. Like I'm thankful that you want to pick me, bring me onto your team to play in the NBA and make millions upon millions of dollars. Like it's a very off-putting mentality.
I think that's also.
And what did Ace Bailey win in college? I mean,
nothing. They didn't do anything.
All the hype there, and I'm not piling on Rutgers here. I like piling on Rutgers, but go Pirates, even though the Pirates are an absolute disaster right now. But like in all seriousness, like Harper and Bailey, and I'm not indicting Harper here because he hasn't expressed any of the stuff that Bailey has with this entitlement stuff. But those two guys going to Rutgers and all the hype. Oh, Rutgers is going to be incredible, this and that. And then Rutgers, I think, was 15 and 17. Like and I'm not saying that it's on them, but you know what? Like it's I wouldn't be for the entitlement stuff under any circumstances. But it's like it's one thing if you had this great team year in college where you won 25 games, you went to the tournament, maybe you ran a run a tournament. It's like, okay, you showed it on the court. I know, again, you go on the Rutgers team, like they didn't have much of anything past Harper and Bailey, but you get what I'm saying? Like the entitlement mentality is never good. There's never an excuse for it. But it's like you just went 15 and 17 in your college team, and now you're going into the NBA draft, and saying, "Oh, I'm not going to work out here or there. I'm only going to work out with this team or that team, and I don't want to be picked by these teams." Like it's not a team guy, and it's a team sport. So it's just major red flag for me. I get the teams taking the talent, but I would pass.
So Philly, you think Philly did the right thing by passing at number 3? Which I think you talked about. He's 1, 2, 3, which probably locked up for a long time until a little fiasco before the draft. But that was all locked up. The talent number 1, 2, 3. But then VJ Edgecombe got in there at number 3 because Ace Bailey didn't want to play with the 76ers and verbally said that.
Yeah, I think
he went to the Mets game and somebody says, "You're gonna come to the 76ers." He looked at him and just walked away. Like,
I mean, what? Like, I just
or something like
to that. Be that arrogant and entitled. It's just it's incredible. Like I just that mindset never works. It really never does. I think it's so obvious, but we see this in life, and look, we're all susceptible to it as human beings. But again, like have a little bit of humility and some gratitude. I mean, it's the NBA. I mean, no matter what team you're getting picked by, I mean, you're playing in the NBA. You're gonna get a big contract, and if you perform to the level that people expect you to, you're gonna make hundreds of millions of dollars as a professional basketball player. And so you're getting yourself off on the wrong foot. And you're showing yourself to be unprofessional. This is the highest level of basketball in the world, and you're showing yourself to have an unprofessional mentality. So I don't want someone on my team that is starting off. They haven't even played a game yet in the highest professional league in the world, and they have an unprofessional mentality. So I think the Sixers totally did the right thing. And even if Bailey goes on to be a Hall of Famer, people look back and say, "Oh, the Sixers passed on him, and the Hornets passed on him." But no, I don't think it matters. I think you did the right thing in the moment.
So let's go on and talk about the other home team, the Brooklyn Nets. They draft 5 players, and I feel like they struck out on all 5. Not saying that like you can't say that after draft night, but they selected 3 guards in the first round, and like 3 pick and roll guards. I just. Like, with the Brooklyn Nets, I was thinking about this, is you can give them as much picks as you want to, but they're really not, like, they're not going to make the right decision. They haven't proved to me yet that they're going to make the right decision. So everybody's saying that, like, oh, they have all these picks from the Kel Bridges trade. Well, have they made the right pick ever? Like, I don't think so. And they haven't proved to me yet that they can go out and get the right player. And Igor Demon, he's good, but he's not the number 8 pick in the NBA draft.
Yeah.
So, and then you get another pick and roll player. You get Drake Powell, the 23-year-old from UNC. It's just like you you're just hoping that one of those guards are good, which is not the way you draft. I mean, it wasn't a good night for Brooklyn, and they couldn't make a move to trade one of those for some more assets. So they just drafted four guards and one center. So that was their night, and then they traded out the second round as well. So that was their draft. That was not their night. That was their draft because they had made it 2 nights now. For some reason, because second round never matter. I mean, Jalen Brunson's the second round, but yeah, I mean, they selected Igor Demon with the 8th pick. I didn't like it. One of them could be a Hall of Famer, but I still just do not like the 4 guards in one night, and then you go with the center. Brooklyn, you can give them as much picks as they want, but I just don't feel like this team is building the right way. They had a lot of, I don't feel like this team is and it shows to you that what the Knicks gave up for Mikal Bridges wasn't that much, because if they're going to spend what the Knicks gave up for them on a guy that is a second round pick, I'm completely fine. So that's all I have to say about them.
They seem to be back to their losing ways. I mean, for most of their history, they've been a losing franchise. I mean, they had the great success in the early 2000s. We're going to the finals 2 years in a row, and then you had Kevin Durant and some of those years. But it seems like the Nets are back to their old ways and pretty irrelevant. I mean, especially in New York. I mean, with the Knicks and their success, like the Nets are just really not on anybody's radar right now.
And they had, again, 4 first-round picks in the latter half of that draft, and they completely failed in every one. And they had that hype backup. I think there was some hype for that. Not hype, but that they could make a rebuilding push. They could draft the right players, but they really swung and missed in every one. And, this is why picks, I don't feel like matter to the Knicks as much as those 5 picks aren't going to matter to the Knicks. They aren't going to make them. Maybe if one of them becomes a star, yes, the Knicks are going to be like, whoa, we traded one player. But those picks do not matter in the grand scheme of things for the Knicks. When you trade for Mikal Bridges, those picks are not going to matter. But they do matter to the Nets, but the Nets got to be the one making the decision. So it's not like the Knicks are going to be making the decision for them. You have the picks now, you got to make the decision. So you're not gifted a star player. With picks, you're not. It's great to have picks, but you aren't gifted a star player. So you have to make the right decision. And the Nets have proved to me again and again and again they can't make the right decision. So
yeah, I mean they're in a tough spot. Again, like the franchise, it's been a losing franchise for most of its history, and I think it's just they're back to that, and they're a pretty irrelevant team again. They're in Brooklyn and they're in New York City with the Knicks, and it's just they're in a bad situation as a franchise.
So I mean you can't really, you can't really say that all those players are gonna be misses, but I just feel like they didn't draft the right way.
Well, it seems it's more quantity than quality. They accumulated the picks, but what's the quality of the players that they got?
Yeah. It's all this fun stuff about you can tell whenever Mikal Bridges had a bad game, you can say on social media, oh, Knicks gave up this many picks for them for that performance. It's okay, but let's see what you do in the offseason with those picks. Nothing. And it's not gonna equate to Mikal Bridges' value, especially if the Knicks go on and do big things. That is not gonna equate to the value of Mikal Bridges. And they can have fun with their picks, but they're gonna have to field the other good team. And let's see if Sean Marks and company can do it. But I don't think that they haven't proved to me yet that they can do it. But shifting gears, you want to shift gears?
Shift gears. I'll be right back. You go to Porzingis?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll come back with my take.
So Porzingis to Atlanta, that was one that Porzingis to Atlanta was one that was, shocking, but they need to get him off the books because of money, and the Celtics need to get Porzingis off, and they received George Niang. So, they just my opinion on them is they're gonna wait until Jason Tatum gets back and they're gonna spend that money. Now, them dumping that money is because of the second apron, is what I talked about a few months ago. Was the second apron is gonna be a real thing, and teams are trying to get under that. And also, I mean, how much money is Porzingis making? He's making a lot of money. He's making about $40 million. And do you really want to pay that for a guy that's, whatever type of center he is? He's not one of the best in the league. He's making 2-year $80 million. That's $40 million per year. So you can't. $40 million per year is something that you cannot pay to a player like that, especially in a new CBA with the second apron. You can't pay that. But Porzingis to Atlanta, they get a guy they can pay for $40 million. They can dish that out to him. They haven't made those big spending moves that Boston has had, so they can go out and they can trade for a player like that, and they get a big. But it's kind of confusing me because they have Onyeka Okongwu, they have Clint Capella, but I would think Clint Capella would walk, and they would have Kristaps Porzingis and Onyeka Okongwu, their center that has blossomed, but he hasn't fully blossomed into a center, big time center. And then Porzingis, we'll see that fit with him and Trae Young. With Trae Young usually having a lob threat centers, and now he has a center that can't jump over a phone booth. So we'll see how that really works. But Porzingis, that's not his thing. His thing is to hit some threes and to stretch out the floor. So we'll see how Atlanta's offense really turns out and how their defense is going to be shredded, because Porzingis is not the best defender, and you pair him with Trae Young, which it's going to be a surprise. It's going to be a really interesting thing to see in Atlanta about how they can use Porzingis. And it's be interesting in Boston of what they do at the center position. They have Luke Cornett, who had a good game in Game 5 against the New York Knicks. He had his big performance, but he has been a pretty solid center for them. Knick legend Luke Cornett, he has had a pretty solid season for them. And they also have other centers there that can be their backups. But I just feel like that Boston is going to need a really solid starting center. That is where I think they make that move for a center. But, do you have your opinion on that Porzingis deal before?
Well, where are the Celtics looking to go here? I mean, is this more of a retooling? Like, they're not rebuilding, they're retooling. I mean, are there moves to come where they're still going to look to seriously compete this upcoming season?
I think they had to make these moves either way, even if they did beat the Knicks and beat the Pacers and then go on and maybe lose in the finals, whatever. They would have still had to make these moves, even if they won the finals. I think they were really struggling under that second apron, and they had to make the moves. I know it's not an A-list take, but second apron, you're dealing a lot of money to Tatum and Brown already, and you want to deal that money to them, of course, because they are worth it. But you have Porzingis, you're dealing $40 million to. Then you have Drew Holiday, who's on a pretty big contract. Don't know it off the top of my head, but then you have those two players, and you're looking at them like they're very tradable. And if I can get under that second apron, and I can now look to see what's on the market for Jaylen Brown, that is what they really are looking to do, and then build a team from there and wait till Tatum comes back, which they also made the move to get Anthony Simons. I don't know how good he really is for them, but he's another guy at the guard position off the bench who can give you some scoring when Tatum's out. Not to like the same, but you still will need scoring when Tatum's out, and he'll help when scoring when Tatum's back in. So we're gonna see them maybe not. I don't even think they can really they can't really stink this year. I don't think it's possible because of how open the Eastern Conference is.
Yeah, they're not going to be a bad team. But this year to me, it's clear that this year is going to be a bridge year. Like, they're not. But the East. The East is weak. The East is open, but
Like, they're not going to get a good draft pick out of it. Like, they're not going to get a good draft pick because they have this bridge year. Like when you usually make bridge years, you have a pretty good draft pick. But this is where you're not going to – you're probably going to have a bridge year, but you're not going to get a good draft pick. But, they don't really need one. But, again, they want to have they want to have a better team around Tatum. Because, again, you keep Holiday for another year. He's 32 or 33 years old. Like, his defense is regressing. I mean, you saw him against Jalen Brunson, just eye test. He didn't look the best. It's Jalen Brunson, but he's going to be tasked with those guards still. It's not like he's not going to be playing against players that he's not going to be guarding players like Jalen Brunson. That's the players they put him on. So you see the regression, and Porzingis, it's like he's a great stretch five when they want to chuck up threes and all that stuff. He's a great player for that, but they can find another one. Like, you don't want to pay a guy that would just chuck up threes and fit into your system $40 million. That won't post up a smaller defender. Like, you don't pay that guy $40 million. And it's just, it's an easy move for them to make. It's not the hard one it's the hard one. I think they still have to make another hard move. It's gonna be do they move Jaylen Brown and what do they move him for? So that's gonna be they made the easy moves for Boston are done. They made the easy moves and that's it. They're under second apron, but another easy hard move is, can they get pieces for Jaylen Brown? And can they get, if they're talking to Utah, can they get two solid players and can they get picks? Like, and then can they cash in those picks and then can they attach somebody whenever they're.
I just keep thinking about how the Celtics really messed up. I'm not saying with the moves, but they won the championship 2024, and then they go out to the Knicks in the second round. Like they were looking to be a dynasty, and now, this year they're out in the second round. This upcoming year, they're dumping payroll, so this is going to be a retooling bridge year. So it's not going to be a championship year coming up. Like they really gave away an opportunity to be a dynasty.
Well, even a repeat, like.
Yeah,
I don't think they could have been I don't think, because there was talk about even if they were to win this year.
I didn't think they were going to be a dynasty. Like I was never really high on them. We've talked about this, but they had that opportunity there.
They had an opening of opportunity.
They could have won the championship this past year.
Yeah,
they failed miserably, but they could have. Then you have two in a row. Like just the whole thing got directed off course. They really
maybe now
they really fell way short of what their expectations were. And now it's like, oh, they're retooling. And I get it. Like, this is what they should do now. It looks like this is what they should do. But I just keep thinking about how they really fell way short of what the expectations were for them.
And what the expectations are always in Boston, I think, is you've got to win. And I think that expectation.
Celtics fans were expecting to repeat this year. This was
and I don't think that
massive fail for them.
But I think even on social media and everywhere, there's executives, insiders saying that they're gonna shed payroll even if they win or not. They cannot sustain that money. But maybe instead of trading Porzingis for George Niang, maybe they trade Porzingis for a player that's on a $20 million contract that is still a pretty better than George Niang, which you can't. It's not really hard to make that player better than George Niang. But maybe instead of actually shedding it, maybe they take back maybe even a player like Josh Hart to make it $20 million. Not just for an example of Josh Hart, that pretty good NBA player. They could take back that instead of actually dumping it for George Niang. That's just, it's really give up. It's not give up. You're trading Porzingis for George Niang. And the Drew Holiday for Simons deal was fine. I think it's pretty good for them. But that other trade, when you trade Porzingis for Niang, it's we're really dumping it now. It could have been a difference if they even won the championship. Maybe the owners we want to take on this money. We want to go into the luxury town.
Just think about where they're at. They don't have Tatum, so that's huge factor for next year. But you lose Tatum, you lose in the second round. You're now going into this retooling year. It really did go off course for them. And I know that they have to act in the situation that they're in now. But taking that big picture look, going back in time, and looking where things have gone for the Celtics, you can't be happy if you're a Celtics fan.
You cannot, because it's always the expectation there is always championship. And I mean, they blew an opportunity where they were the absolute overdogs. I mean, again, injured, but they were the absolute overdogs. And they were, I think there are a lot of people that are like, let's just not even watch. We know that Celtics and Thunder are going to be finals. And that's not what it came out to be. And, you know, that is why, we talk about 3-point shooting and how they have great players, but they shoot too many threes, and, they have a system, and it's not conducive to winning at times. So that whole thing leads up to a thing that runs off course. And
it is off course.
Like, it reminds me of like that system is like you could get hot one year, like, but then do you really think a team that just shoots a bunch of threes is gonna repeat and do that? Like, the chances of that, the percentage of that happening is like zero, because you can't shoot that well every single season.
Yeah, and I think, we're going back to talking about the Celtics losing to the Knicks and the way they play. But I
also don't think that was conducive to repeating or conducive to, I guess winning, but conducive to repeating and conducive to being a dynasty. Like, you've got to have guys, and you got to have guys that can get to the rim and can do different stuff. So I think that even ties into, can they be a dynasty, big picture? I didn't think they could have.
Yeah, and you look at the road they had to winning their championship in 2024. I know a title's a title. They did win the title, but the Knicks were the best team that they played in the playoffs the last 2 years, and they lost. They had a cakewalk to the finals in 2024, and then they played a Mavericks team, it was a 5 seed, and they were banged up, and the Celtics basically had a cakewalk in the finals too. They had the easiest road to a championship ever, and then the best team they played in the playoffs the last 2 years, they lose. And they were massive favorites, according to betting lines, and they really were massive favorites coming to the series. I just think the Celtics were exposed, and I think they fell way short of what the expectations were for this group. This was, supposed to be a group that was contending to be a dynasty, and they didn't even come close. And now it's uncertainty with them. They're making moves to cut payroll, get under the luxury tax, and but I don't know. I don't think it's a sure thing that they get back and all of a sudden they're back to being big time title contenders. Let's say 2 years from now, like maybe, but I don't think it's a sure thing. I think there's clearly issues with the Celtics franchise and with the things we've just talked about here. So,
there's issues because Joe Mazzulla is not going to leave. Like, we talked about this, the common denominator is Joe Mazzulla and their analytic team, and they're not going to just ship off their whole analytic team. Again, it won them a championship, so they're going to probably.
Yeah, it did, but it didn't. Again,
yeah, I know, but you're not going to ship them off completely. You're not going to be like
no, they're dug in. Yeah. These franchises, they all use analytics now, but these franchises are like the super analytics franchises. They're dug in. They're true believers in it.
Well, it's more fuel to fire when you even get one, no matter what it is. If it's an easy cakewalk, whatever, they got a chip. So
they won. So what we do works. I don't look at it that way. It's like, I don't think it was stressed enough. They had the easiest road to a championship ever. It's just reality. They're not going to look at it that way. They think it's validation of the way they do things. But I think they totally got exposed by losing to the Knicks in the second round of the playoffs. But anyway, how about we redirect this conversation to where the Eastern Conference is at now? You see where the Celtics are. They are significantly down from where they were at their peak, winning the championship in 2024. The Pacers lose Halliburton for all of next year after losing in Game 7 of the finals, losing him in Game 7. So where the Pacers are at, where the Celtics are at. Yeah, the Bucks.
Even the Bucks, I know you don't like them, but even this Eastern Conference, they could be a team, and then they lose Dame Lillard for the whole entire year.
Yeah,
we don't know about that Achilles though, with him, of course, and that is undoubtful. Same thing with Tyrese. So
yeah. Where are things out in the East? And let's bring the Knicks into the conversation. The door is open for the Knicks next year. They still don't have a coach, have their own issues, but the East is wide open. I think the clearer way to say it, the more direct way, is the East is weak.
Yeah, the East is weak, and it's when the Knicks case is it's wide open for them. But there's two options. They either stay put and they think this team's gonna break through that window or gonna get through that window that's open, or they shake up and they're like, we gotta pounce on this opportunity and we gotta get even better. Like not even better. You can make moves that get you worse, but they can get even better. They think they're gonna get even better. But what do you think? Like the biggest question is the East being wide open. Does that make you want to stay put and be like, we're going to win with this team, or does it make you?
No, because I think the goal is to win an NBA championship.
No, I mean, stay put because you think that your team. I honestly think the Knicks have a team that's like, we were the top 4 team. Like, we can win a championship with this team. Like, I know the goal is to win a championship, and they think that they have a team that can win a championship. I think that's what their thought is, and it's just about, in their minds, about getting the right head coach to take them there and to get the right depth pieces. So if that's what they think, it's running it back. But also, there's a world where I think they're definitely going to look. McElbridge and Mitchell Robinson, I've heard, are in some trade talks, which always, I mean, you always want to see what's available for definitely players like that who aren't your super duper duper stars like Brunson and, even with the Celtics, Tatum. So you don't want to move them, but with players like McElbridge and Mitchell Robinson, if you're going to get the right pieces back, you're going to pull the trigger. You're definitely going to do that. And, even you do give up 5-6 first round picks. We'll see how much this front office likes McElbridge because he is up for an extension, a 4-year, $40 million contract that each year is $40 million. Or he can take a pay cut because he wants to stay with the Villanova boys, and his other Villanova boy took a pay cut. So we'll see. We'll see if the Knicks can even trade him before that extension kicks in. Do they really even like him? Like, not like they probably like him, but like, do they even think that he's worth? Like, do they? Leon Rose and McElbridge is talking. They're like, I need this $40 million. Like, I'm gonna get this $40 million. You're not gonna lower my price at all. You can lower to 35, and the Knicks are like, no, we don't believe you're that, and we're gonna trade you. So that could definitely happen, and that's the biggest, other than the coaching, that is the biggest storyline of this offseason, McElbridge and his extension. Does he take a pay cut, or does he look at the Knicks and be like, I'm going to get $35 million or $40 million, and I'm not going to take anything less? And Knicks could either give it to him, or they can be like, you're not worth it, which I think is the right move. He's not worth it, but again, he has all the leverage. The Knicks trade him for 6 first-round picks. I know we talked about how they didn't mean anything, but in the NBA, even though they don't mean anything, as I said, but in the NBA, it gives you leverage. You don't want to be the team that loses somebody because for nothing or for less assets. You don't, like, for example, the Knicks traded, I know KD's already traded, but Knicks trade McElbridge for KD. Then you're looking at a situation where you traded 6 first-round picks for Kevin Durant. So you're like, that isn't the right, like that doesn't sound right to you. But I think 6 first-round picks is gone. You got to make the right move. And if that traded McElbridge's, which I think some people think is the right move, or it's keeping McElbridge's, you've got to throw those 6 first-round picks out. It's over. It's done. Nets probably won that deal, whatever. We'll see what they can do with the picks, but it's a lot. You got to throw those away, and you got to be like, look, is this guy worth it to give that type of money to? That's just the biggest storyline I'm looking forward to in the offseason.
Yeah, I think the Knicks have to improve their roster. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I don't think they could just rest on what they have and say, well, because we're going to be in a weak Eastern Conference next year, we're good enough. I'm looking at the betting odds right now for the Eastern Conference for next year. So Cleveland is the slight favorite.
Slight favorite, yeah.
Plus 270. The Knicks are plus 300. So they're right behind. So it's very, very close.
Yeah.
So the Knicks, I mean,
by summertime, Knicks should be number 1, like or something.
Yeah, I mean, the Knicks, it's basically Cleveland and New York are 1A and 1B in terms of the betting lines, which the betting lines, I think, really accurately show, who the favorites are in the Eastern Conference. So, you can look at that way, like you were saying, and it's like, well, we have enough right now. Okay, the Knicks have enough right now to win the conference, but it's not like you're looking at the Knicks right now and it's like, oh, the Knicks are clearly
Again, they're
well
above
above and beyond the rest of the teams in the conference. No, I mean they have an open path to the finals, but I think you want to get better. I think you want to at least try, and maybe it'll be difficult for them to do this, but at least try to improve at least your depth, but improve your roster, to increase your chances, because they have as good a chance as basically anyone in the conference right now. But it's not like they're Oklahoma City in the West, where Oklahoma City is going to go into next year as the clear favorite to win the Western Conference. They'll be the favorite to win the NBA Finals. So I think the Knicks have to have that approach of we need to maybe get creative, but we need to make moves to improve the roster, because the goal is not just to win the Eastern Conference. Like right now, maybe it opens up. You say, hey, I think the Knicks are going to win the East, but it's all about winning a championship. Yeah. So how are you going to stack up against probably Oklahoma City, but even some of these other teams in the West that could come out of the West next year?
I don't think that, I'm going to put this on the record right now, I don't think the Knicks offseason is going to be as hectic as the last one, where they go on. Well, no, I don't think that's the right word, but not going to be as hectic and player trading, player swapping like they did with Mikal Bridges and Karl-Anthony Towns. Like, that was crazy. Like, that was intense with all those assets, gave them all up. I don't think it's going to be that type of season anymore, because I felt like they made all those pick trades. Like, the Knicks are saying, oh, they can do this, they can do that, but didn't they make all those moves last year? Like, that's my thought process of it. Like, they made all these moves last year, and I feel like they're like, I don't know about like the big moves happen, like the big shakeups, because like, didn't they do that last year? Like, do they really have any picks, the wiggle room? Like, I feel like they're in this core, like they dove into it, and they're not gonna, like, if there was something available, they're gonna do something, but I just don't feel it's gonna be as hectic. But who knows? Leon Rose tomorrow can trade somebody for somebody, but I just feel like they made all those moves last year, and it's hard to think that they can even do anything.
Well, how do you think they stack up with Oklahoma City right now?
I think they stack up. I think they stack up like, they can push that series to 6, 5. I think they can win a few games against them. I think they can.
Well, see, I think that's a problem though, because again, I think the goal, I think it's as obvious. The goal is to win a championship. So again, the East has opened up. I mean, with what's going on with the Celtics, Halliburton getting hurt with Indiana. How good are the Cavs really? Like, they won 61 games, but they bowed out in the second round. I mean, the Cavs are going to be there. They're a contender for the Eastern Conference next year. But yeah, the path is there for the Knicks next season to get to the finals. But then it's all about winning a championship. I mean, it's 52 years now. It's 52 years since the Knicks have won. So that's the goal for everyone involved with the Knicks. So it's just like you said, I think they go 6, maybe 5. Like that to me isn't good enough. That means they have to do something this offseason to improve their roster. I don't think it's going to be something significant, because I don't think they are in that position to make that big major move. That's not going to happen, but at least add depth pieces to move them along.
Well, yeah.
And I don't know if that's going to be enough, but like that's at least improving the roster, augmenting the roster you already have.
It's hard to really predict the Knicks right now. As wide up as the East is, it's hard to on this date, because they don't have a head coach. You don't know if this head coach is because Taylor Jenkins, you bring in Taylor Jenkins, for example, he's a guy that wants to run like 10 people. And that could help you against OKC, because that makes more depth, and then you can run with that depth, and you really match up better because you're playing a lot of players, and that can help you defeat an OKC. But it really depends on what coach they bring in. I think it does. And it depends on if they bring in a championship level coach. Like, that is what they want to bring in, a championship level coach, and they got to wait for the coach to come in and see if the coach even, like, for example, there's a coach really like Mikal Bridges. Like, That's the thing. Like, does he really want to like coach him? Does he? I mean, not want to coach him, but is he like, you could, if this trade's on the floor, if you want to ship him out, it's a-okay to me. Like, if you want to explore the trade options for Mitchell Robinson, a-okay to me. Like, you've got to have that coach in there before you make that move, which is weird why they haven't got a coach yet. But
I mean, this is over 3 weeks since Thibodeau got fired. He got fired on June 3rd. It was 3 days after they lost to the Pacers, after they were eliminated. So this is 23 days since they fired. They still don't have a coach. I mean, we're into the draft. They're the only team without a coach, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I mean, the optics of it, and like whatever with optics, but they do matter to some degree. But I don't get a good feeling about where the organization is at right now. Like you fire Thibodeau, which again, I don't agree with. I don't see how you fired a guy that led the team to that victory over the Celtics in that series and taking him to ECF for the first time in 25 years. I don't think it's a move they should have made. And going back to when they did it, I figured that they'd have somebody, in line. Like, it's okay, we're firing him, but like we're ready to really move on X coach or Y coach, and you'd have that guy in place pretty quickly. But it wasn't the case, and it was a Dolan move that came out. So it's just I don't get a good feeling about it. And I'm, a lot older than you, so as a Knicks fan, and just the almost 2 decades where the Knicks were pretty much terrible. And with Dolan running the show, and now he's got his hands back in it with making this move. I don't get a good feeling about it. And they're still good, right? They're still right in the mix. The opportunity is there, but I don't like the spot the organization is in right now. I think, they were at their high when they beat the Celtics in the second round. And then even after losing the Pacers, it was disappointing. Game 1 was the big game in that series. The Knicks should have been up 1-0. That just changed the series. But okay, even if they're losing that series, disappointing. But it's like, okay, like they made this run in the playoffs. They got to Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals. And the Pacers were not a slouch team. The Knicks were a slight favorite going in. But okay, like this was a really good run. And the 3 days afterwards, before they announced Thibodeau got fired, it's like, all right, like there's optimism going forward, and then they fire him. It's like, oh man. And now here we are. They still don't have a coach. Like it's more of a feeling than it is like tangible evidence. Like, I'm not there in the building knowing what's going on behind the scenes, but I don't get a good feeling right now.
It's not
that the organization, like they're not gonna be a terrible team next year or anything like that. But it's just they've put themselves in a situation. I think they've created this situation, and I think it's James Dolan who really worries me. I think should worry every Knicks fan, because this guy's been a detriment to the Knicks franchise for a long time. And it's like he's gotten his hands in there when they're really building a good thing. And I don't know. I just like I feel very uneasy about it right now. And I think a lot of Knicks fans feel the same way.
Okay. So do you want to change hands to the MLB?
Yeah, let's talk some baseball. Yeah.
Let's talk some baseball.
At the halfway point of the season.
Yeah. We can give our thoughts. I think we've got a good enough sample size to see what our teams need. And, we want to start with the Red Sox and what they need, or like what they could go after, or what their thoughts are right now.
They're a mess. The Devers trade, which we talked about last week, they were playing very well. They're the best stretch of the season. They won 8 of the last 10 games that Devers was on their team. It was the best stretch of the season. Yeah. Then they traded him. They won 2 out of 3 against Seattle right after the Devers trade. So that 2 out of 3, so you add that, so that's 10 out of 13. I think they even won 11 out of 14. Yeah, because they beat the Giants last Friday night. So they had a stretch of 11 out of 14. So it was the best stretch of the season. Now they've lost their last 5 games. They lost the last 2 games against the Giants this past weekend, and they just got swept by the LA Angels. They lost 5 out of 6 to the Angels this year. So the Red Sox, they're just a mess. If you watch them day in and day out like I do, they're a talented team, which everybody knows that. I mean, you don't have to watch them every day to know that. But they're a talented team. They got some of these young players. that are, certainly guys to be excited about, but they're young and they got to gain their experience in the big leagues. But they have glaring holes. They're the worst defensive team in baseball. They play terrible defense. They make mistakes on the bases. They don't play fundamental baseball. Their pitching, is kind of mediocre. The rotation has its issues. I mean, Garrett Crochet is great. They did a nice job acquiring him and then signing him to an extension. He's phenomenal, legit ace. He's a horse. But after that, I mean, the rotation's shaky. Walker Buehler's been really bad. Bullpen is.
Put that walk and Walker. He put that walk and Walker.
Oh, yeah, he walked 7 guys against the Angels a few nights ago. So, yeah, I mean,
that's a joke I have. That's
yeah, no, it's a good nickname for him right now. So he's been a major disappointment. Yeah. You got Bregman out. I mean, we'll see when he comes back. You've been hearing different things on that. And then the lineup now without Devers, it's a significant hit clearly to the lineup. So they're a mediocre team. They're frustrating. They've just been in this state of mediocrity for a few years now. So it's highly disappointing where they're at. I mean, if we were talking 5 games ago, I'd be like, all right, they got something going here. I still wouldn't have told you like, oh, I'm jumping on board and I believe they're going to really take off. No, it doesn't surprise me that they've had this 5-game losing streak. It's just really what they are. So they're 2.5 games out of a playoff spot because of the American League and it being a weak league. So that does help. So they're by no means out of the race. But it's just very tough to see how they could sustain success. They show signs, the talent's there, but the holes they have, the pitching issues, and then the lineup now. I mean, their lineup now without Devers, it's a mediocre lineup. It just is. Even when Bregman comes back, he'll make them better. But going back to last week, we talked about. I just don't agree with the Devers trade. I think it really hurts their chances this year. And fans have been waiting for a while. Like this was supposed to be a highly competitive season for them, and it has not been that. So, I think you got to let it play out here these next few weeks. Whether they're going to be buyers or sellers, or get a 2.5 out. Yeah. It's tough to make the argument that they're sellers. But they could very well be sellers, and I'm kind of torn right now.
The next few series is a big indication. Well, trade deadline around that time, but
it's just tough to believe in them. Like I want to.
Inconsistency is like one of the things that like one day the whole organization could be like we are buyers, but the next day it's like we're sellers. But that whole thing is like it's really hard to predict those type of teams when you get up to the trade deadline.
Yeah, and they really are like it's too early right now. I mean, some teams you just know they're going to be sellers because they're way out of it. Other teams clearly buyers. So they're one of those teams that's wait and see, but. Again, because of the American League this year, I don't think you could write them off. Would I be shocked if they were the 3rd wild card? I wouldn't say shocked, but again, there's really something wrong with the team and really with the organization. And it gets into detail, and again, it's more of a conversation. Like if you're watching the team on a day-to-day basis and you're following the moves of the organization, and just I don't believe in their program. I don't believe in their front office. The ownership, is kind of checked out and interested in other ventures that they have. So just the people running the organization, the front office, and their approach, I don't think it works. And again, there's talent on the roster, so they can hang in there, but in terms of them, really going on a run and getting past. Just being a team stuck around 500, I think it's very tough to see that happening. So that's where they're at right now, just a ball of frustration for their fans. Why don't we get into your Mets, who have struggled recently? They won last night. What was it, 8 out of 9 that they had lost before?
Soto, 2-home run day. They have a team that is playing very – their bullpen that was, first in the league and just amazing, lights out, has kind of took a hit, and there's a lot of I think that the arms that were really good in Reed Garrett, they have a lot of arms that were very good in the first part of the season that have now slowed down. It's really hurt the team because the starting pitching, again, can give you 5 innings, but then you're handing off your bullpen for a lot of that game. And I like pitchers, even pitchers nowadays go 5 still. Like a lot of them go 5, and I think it's a normal thing nowadays.
Yeah,
but,
it's what goes on around baseball.
But then you put a team that every single day, it's hard to expect Reed Garrett to really be consistent every day. And, they're going to take a tough slid, but I think this offense it's the biggest thing about them is they've been a little inconsistent for an offense that's like that. I think they've got to fix that bottom of the order. If you see a bat available, my thing is if you see a bat available that doesn't cost that much, I would go out and get it. I think, of course, they're going out and getting starting pitching. That's what they've said. They're going to go out and get a starting pitcher, and they need another lefty arm. It's like they need another lefty arm because Danny Young and AJ Minter are out. I don't know when Danny Young's coming back, but they don't have a lefty arm. They don't have arms in general in the bullpen. They have some arms, but they just got to get arms, and I think they got to get one more bat. I think it's weird that I'm saying. I think it's unpopular. I don't know if it's an unpopular opinion across the whole MLB, but I feel like the Mets just need one more bat in that bottom of the order because, Tyron Taylor, Brett Beatty's been showing signs. Jeff McNeil is always a consistent, in my opinion, a very consistent hitter. But then you get down, you're playing Ronnie Mauricio. Like, he's good, but another bat. So you don't have to play Ronnie Mauricio every day. Like, you don't have to play Brett Beatty every day. You get another bat who's a veteran and just can get on base or can hit runners in scoring position more consistently, because this is a team, when they lost in losing stretch, hitting with runners in scoring position. Biggest thing for the Mets. Can they hit with runners in scoring position? And it could hurt them in the playoffs. Like if you get a vet on the bottom of the lineup that can really cash in with runners in scoring position, you're gonna have a good bottom of the order. I just think the bottom of the order, top of the order, no questions asked. They stink one day and can be good the next day. That's why they get paid to do it. But bottom of the order, one more bat would be very nice for the Mets. But I think that's just a fantasy. I think that's just like a cherry on the top. Arms is definitely the thing. If David Stern's is gonna miss one thing, it can be the bat. They can miss the bat if they miss something in trade deadline. They can miss the bat. Give me a starting pitcher.
Yeah.
Give me an innings eater. If Manaea coming back, you kind of have your guys back, but McGill hasn't really been the best. Just get somebody who can replace Todd McGill. Not at the level, but in the rotation. Give you innings. Very good pitcher. Griffin Canning's kind of not falling off completely, but he's a good 5 to 6 pitcher. I think he's shown that he's a very good season from him. He's shown that he's a good 5 to 6 pitcher. But again, Mets have a lot of good 4, 5, 6 pitchers. Give me that 2 pitcher. Give me that 1 pitcher, and we can run with that. And especially with Manaea back, that pitching can turn to a second of being a very good pitching rotation.
And Senga.
With Senga out, also that stinks for him. He's always injured, but he's
going to be so key for them.
He's going to be key, and he's hurt right now again.
He got hurt covering first base.
He's got hurt covering first base. He is going to be out for 15 days minimum. He's going to be back, of course.
They'll get him back. So he's going to be really key for them.
Senga, Canning. If you want to push Holmes, you could do Holmes. And that 5th pitcher, Montas can move to the bullpen, whatever. Well, if you want to run 6, you do Montas, and then you can find one more because McGill is whatever. So Montas, and you have one more. So I think that the players like Montas right now need to earn their. Like Montas had 5 innings scoreless. Like that's fine, but 5 to 6. But he needs to prove it again and again. And I think they just need, if you break their pitching rotation down, one more starting pitcher and give me a lefty in the bullpen and give me one more bullpen arm. Or you don't even need to. You can promote somebody up from the. I think Reed Garrett's been a good righty arm. Like they have some decent righty arms, but I think one more lefty arm, that can be consistently good, who's a consistently respected lefty arm in the MLB. I think bringing up like people like Jose Castillo, who hasn't been good at all for the Mets, like just trying people, like it's just give me a respected veteran arm. This team cannot try people. They're not in that position to just try something, especially if you don't have any lefties. I think give me a respected, like the whole thing about the Mets, they need to buy and get respected around the league players. Like, not saying that these players are not respected. No, we're like a real respected veteran or even like a 28, 29-year-old. Like, give me a respected player.
Yeah, I think the Knicks, the Knicks, orange and blue. I think the Mets. Look, it's been a tough stretch for them recently, but it's such a long season.
Yes,
all teams have,
and also Soto is starting to heat up, which I think is bigger for the Mets than a few game skid. I think him getting himself feet wet.
He's gonna be fine.
I mean, he's gonna be fine. Two home run Ks.
He's a superstar. He's gonna do his thing.
Yeah.
You're not worrying about Soto. So like all teams go through tough stretches. Even the good teams are very good teams. You're going to have those stretches. I mean, again, they had lost 8 out of 9. But they're 47 and 34.
Yeah.
So they're exactly halfway through the season. They've played 81. There's 81 to go. They're in a pace to win 94 games. All right. So the Mets got to get healthy. They get pitching healthy. Get Senga back. Mania back. Yes, they have to add pitching. I mean, but even before this poor stretch for them, we've been saying, everybody's saying like the Mets are going to have to add the deadline because everybody's looking to add the deadline. And it's the Dodgers. The Dodgers have had their rash of injuries. But the Dodgers are the best team. The Dodgers are loaded. So it's all about lining yourself up. I shouldn't say all about it. It's largely about lining yourself up to compete with the Dodgers, but it is also about putting yourself in a position to win the division because the Phillies are right there. And I think it's going to be a race. Like I think the Phillies have shown that they're for real again this year.
Even if they hit a skid, they can hit a skid, but then they're back into it. Like I feel like they've had an up and down season, but they're going to be a pest for the Mets.
Yeah, and the Phillies have their own issues, and they're going to need to address their issues at the deadline too. But that's always the case. Like again, I think you should feel good as a Mets fan still. Again, these injuries, all teams deal with injuries. The Mets have been hit with them, particularly with their pitching. But they'll get guys back. Like I said, the Dodgers have injuries. They're going to get guys back. So for the Mets, they're in a real race for the NL East. Like I would say the Mets are the favorites, but I think the Phillies. I thought the Mets were bigger favorites.
Well, before they went
earlier on in the season, than now. Because I just and it's not really. I'm not really looking at it as indicting the Mets. I'm looking more so as the Phillies. Like the Phillies are good. Like the Phillies, there are questions about them coming to the season. They didn't do enough in the offseason, But I think the Phillies have shown like they're for real again. They're gonna be in the mix. So I think this is gonna be a race in the NL East. Like if I had to pick a team to win the division, I'd go with the Mets. But I think this is legitimately a 2-team race. I don't think the Braves are now getting back in it. I think they're too far back.
Even though they do own the Mets.
The way they own the Mets, it's just ridiculous. I mean, they've won. What is it? It's something absurd. Like it's 28 out of 39. I think
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think now it's 28 to 39, and they're playing again tonight. So it's just absurd how the Braves beat the Mets. But the Braves are too far back. They're not coming back in the National League East race. But again, like the Mets, it's just they're still in a good spot. They're going to win a lot of games. Their season's not going to go south. Gone through a tough stretch again here, but they'll get themselves back on track. They'll eventually have a streak where they have a big winning streak, whatever, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 11, something like that, 10 to 13. Like you're going to see that happen. But again, we're approaching the deadline now. We're getting that time of year where people are talking about trades. They are talking about the deadline. It's coming up. It's about 5 weeks away. So right now it's about the Mets, getting back on a good track. They had to win last night. Tonight, try to get a split in this series and then just kind of go from there. Got the All-Star break coming up too, so finish strong here in this unofficial first half. I mean, they're at the halfway point in terms of games. but finish strong going to the All-Star break. And then after the All-Star break, it really heats up. Then it's really trade deadline and all that talk. And then, beyond the talk, getting deals done. So I think the Mets will. I think as a Met fan, you got to feel good about that. Like with Cohen and Stearns, they're going to make moves. They're going to improve the roster. But that their competitors are going to be too. Like I'd be interested to see what the Phillies do. I would think the Phillies are going to, make some moves. I think they have to as well. And I think the Dodgers, they're always going to make moves, even though they're loaded, but they've had their injuries. They'll make their moves too. So I think, the Mets, it's going to be, it's going to be a race in the National League East. It's going to be on. I expect it to be close the whole season. I don't think either team is going to run away with it. So, that's where the Mets are at. Again, I think you got to, still feel good about where they're at 81 games into the season.
So that's gonna do it for this episode, and we'll see as the in the season, but we'll see as everything the Mets, what they do, the Red Sox, what they do they become buyers or sellers. We'll talk about that more in season 2. And in the Knicks, they probably will find their head coach. So please, by August, let's find that coach.
Yeah.
And deals will be done. Definitely in the NBA, deals will be done, and we'll see if the Knicks stand pattern out. We'll give our opinion on the whole Eastern Conference as all the pieces fall together. I mean, we just got some pieces, but even the Celtics can make a big move, a buying move. Who knows? They could have just acquired so many assets to go rated for a player. Who knows? So we'll talk about all that in season 2. We'll see you guys there. Thank you for tuning in for season 1, and let's go Knicks.